Before the beginning there was He. Before time, space, matter. There existed an eternal and absolute consciousness. The book of Genesis does not begin by explaining God. It presents Him as the fundamental given of reality. The protagonist is not introduced. He simply is. In the beginning, God. These are the first and most important words of the entire biblical narrative. They establish who is the author, the sovereign, and the center of all that is to come. With incomparable power and infinite precision, He brings order to chaos. Each of His words is a creative decree. Let there be light, and light obeys. Let there be a vault between the waters, and the sky is established. Each act of creation is deliberate, methodical, and intentional. And after each stage, the solemn declaration. And God saw that it was good. Creation is a pure expression of His goodness and perfection. The pinnacle of this majestic work is the formation of man. Here we see an intimate shift in the Creator's method. He does not command from a distance but bends down. He forms Adam from the dust of the earth in an act that blends power and tenderness, and breathes into his nostrils the breath of life. It is a moment of profound intimacy, granting humanity an incomparable value and dignity, to be made in the image and likeness of God Himself. But the God of Genesis is not a distant watchmaker who creates and withdraws. He is a God who seeks relationship. Even after the fall, which shattered perfect communion, it is He who seeks out man in the garden, with a question that echoes through the centuries. Where are you? We see His patience in marking Cain to protect him, even after the first murder. And then, He inaugurates a theme that will run throughout the Bible: the covenant. With Noah, He establishes a unilateral pact, promising never again to destroy the earth with a flood, and seals this promise with a rainbow in the sky, a sign of His preserving grace for all creation. With Abraham, the covenant deepens. Promises of land, descendants, and most profoundly of all, that through him all the families of the earth would be blessed. God reveals Himself as the faithful keeper of His promises, the sure foundation upon which hope can be built. The majesty of God is inextricably linked to His holiness. He is perfectly pure and just. Therefore, sin, which is the corruption of His good creation, demands a response. God's justice in Genesis is not arbitrary vengeance. It is the necessary defense of holiness and order against the chaos of evil. The expulsion from the Garden of Eden is not merely punishment. It is an act of mercy to prevent man from living forever in a fallen state. The flood is presented as a solemn judgment upon a civilization that had become utterly corrupt. And yet, we see His grace amid judgment, providing salvation for the righteous Noah and his family. In Sodom and Gomorrah, we see His patience, allowing Abraham to intercede for the city. The justice of God is always proportional, always preceded by long suffering, and always perfect, even when beyond our finite understanding. Perhaps one of His most profound revelations in Genesis is His sovereign rule over all history. God is not a spectator. He is the supreme maestro, orchestrating all events, even the most painful, for a greater good and a redemptive purpose. Nothing illustrates this better than the story of Joseph. Sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused, forgotten in prison. A sequence of tragedies that seemed meaningless. But God's plan was unfolding in silence. At the climax of the story, Joseph declares to his repentant brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." The sovereignty of God is the assurance that no suffering is in vain, no human plan can thwart His ultimate purpose, and that He is always working, even in the shadows, for the good of those who love Him and for the glory of His name. God, in Genesis, is therefore the anchor of reality. He is the powerful Creator, the relational God who makes covenants, the just and holy Judge, and the sovereign ruler who guides history toward its redemptive climax. To know Him is to understand the starting point of everything. The entire narrative of Genesis, from creation to Joseph in Egypt, points to Him, reveals His character, and sets the stage for the fulfillment of His promises. He is not a character in the story. He is the author and the goal of it. What impresses you most about the character of God revealed in Genesis? Share your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe to the channel to follow our journey through the characters who encountered this majestic God and whose lives were forever transformed by Him.